Welcome back, Flyers Nitty Gritty fans, to Getting Gritty with It with your host, Yariv. Wolok, my partner in crime, as always, Vasili Gianarakos. Vasili, my friend. How you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm doing good, Yariv. Back at it again for another episode. We're about halfway through training camp now, so a lot of roster cuts since the last time we chatted. A lot to go through now too, just in terms of who's left out of who got cut, and who on the bubble is going to essentially make this team. I think
Yep.
the deadline is this Monday coming up. I think 5 p.m., something along those
Yep.
lines. So the Flyers are going to have their full roster soon, so it's going to be exciting just to kind of see who ends up making the team here.
Yeah, we should know by the end of the weekend. We should have a
Most
very good
likely.
idea of what the final roster will be, and we're close to it now, though I think we can guesstimate it ourselves. We're going to try to do that on the show. And we're just going to talk full. So we'll do a little bit of news, and then we'll do player evaluations. We're going to just talk about everybody, like just give our thoughts of guys that participated in training camp. Then in the second half, we will look at the line combinations from practice, um, and where they are right now, where we think they're going to be. We're going to talk a little bit about Kaprizov and the implications of that onto free agency and maybe just contracts in general. And then also, it will try to talk on prospects. We'll see how much time we have. We'll try to do a prospect update. If not, we'll do that next week. We'll see how long we go with the player evaluations, because that's going to be fun. Okay, before we get started, just want to remind everybody, please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell for notifications to get notified when we release these episodes. And for the audio version, go to Spotify and iTunes. Give us a rating and a follow if you can. Again, that is the best way to support this show. If you have not done that so far, please do so now. We humbly appreciate it. And also make sure to check out flyersnittygritty.com for all of our latest content, and make sure to sign up to the email list, and so you know about the stuff we release. And also a shout out to our sponsors, Jim Steaks at 4th and South. Make sure to go get yourself a cheesesteak from Jim's. They have one of the best, if not the best, cheesesteak in Philadelphia. Make sure to go to 4th and South and get your cheesesteak from Jim's. Also, a shout out to Summit Public Adjusters, 215-752-0560. Go to them for your insurance adjustment needs. They will help facilitate the process between you and your insurance company and make sure you get the best claim possible. Again, Summit Public Adjusters, 215-752-0560. And also want to give a brief shout out to our partner, SportsSpider.com. Guys, if you're tired of searching multiple websites for sports news, SportsSpider.com has you covered. They collect the latest articles, videos, and podcasts from around the web and organize them by your favorite teams. If you want to stay as up to date on our Philadelphia Flyers or the NHL in general, make sure to check out SportsSpider.com. The link to SportsSpider is in the description of both the video and audio versions of this podcast. And again, you can always go to sportspider.com. Our stuff from Flyers Nitty Gritty is pinned at the top. So make sure you support them and make sure you support us. We appreciate it. Okay, dude, let's get into it. We got a pretty fun show ahead. First, let's get a couple news items out of the way. The first is an update on rookie Oliver Bonk. We have not heard too much about him. He was listed as day-to-day since essentially the start of training camp. Kind of came in with a nagging injury. We don't really know what it is. I think they did state it was upper body injury.
Yeah, upper body, but they didn't really specify
Of
other than
course,
that.
because that is the name of the game today. But yeah, so he's at least been given a timetable of 2 weeks that should put him just past preseason for the Phantoms. I believe they start preseason tonight against Hershey,
Okay.
if I remember correctly. So he's going to miss those games, but not the end of the world for him. Really just need him to get into season. Again, the organization already has big plans for him. It's a little shame that he never got to compete for a roster spot, because considering how messy that competition has been, maybe he actually had a chance. But ideally, the best place for him would be anyway the AHL. So it sucks we haven't gotten to take a look at him, but at least we know that there's like a 2 week timetable. So hopefully that is a solid timetable. I don't think they would
Yeah,
have
good. It's
given
not
us.
serious for
Yeah.
him, right?
Well, it's good that they gave us a date, because you start to wonder when it keeps going week by week, week by week. That's like
Yeah, and
worse.
just the fact that it's not more than like a 2 week period for him is a good thing. Like you don't want him to miss significant time. Like the longer he misses, it's gonna be harder to kind of catch the train as it, goes by you without training camp and things like that. So
Yeah. Yeah, so it's good to see. Um, so yeah, we'll talk a little bit about Bonk when we get to the second half of the show when we talk about line combinations, stuff like that. Um, the other piece of news, and this is a quick one. Eric Johnson, longtime Flyer, uh, but definitely loved here. Even in a short stint, just his personality as like a leader and his kind of goofy nature around the ice was definitely something everybody took note of. Obviously, all the guys on the roster that played with him loved him, but he officially announced his retirement from hockey. Not that surprising. He kind of did everything you want to achieve. He went out on top, I'd say, to the point where he wasn't a detriment on the ice to a team. He still had value. So he had a very long career, obviously a Stanley Cup in his past as well. So he got to lift the cup before he ended his career. So kudos to him, Eric Johnson, former first overall pick. Um, Good for him. So he can now relax and maybe, I assume, probably work in hockey, considering how much he's loved. I could totally see him getting like a player development role with
yeah.
some organization, potentially even the Flyers, just because
Well, I
what
mean,
kind of impact he made here.
he's a veteran, right? Like the presence he brought when he's with the Flyers, you could tell he was loved, like in the locker room, and even being here for such a short amount of time. So, what a career, right? First overall pick, for the Blues back in the day, and then also, wins the cup with the Avalanche as the captain with them. So,
Yeah.
yeah, like incredible career for him. And then also, I can't remember who put it out there online, but I did see earlier, like Johnson made some note that the year he played in Philly, one of his favorite years in his whole career, and that the right people are in charge of Philadelphia. So take
Wow.
that with what
I
you
actually
will,
missed
but
that. That's
it's pretty
dope.
interesting.
Yeah. Well, again, like you hear that kind of comment and what I said, when you buy into a leadership group, you see the way the Flyers are bringing in ex players, especially ex Flyers, but even like Danny Heatley, who's not even an ex Flyer and now is part of this organization. Chris Stewart's helps out here too, and on the staff, he was here for like a year. So,
Yeah.
I don't think it's that crazy that a guy like Eric Johnson would be, offered a job by the Flyers. But
Former players respect the culture, obviously, that they're trying to build. So
yeah, and obviously, could be Colorado as well, could be St. Louis, could be Buffalo.
could be anyone,
Yeah, anywhere he
really.
spent time.
Yeah.
I think he left a good reputation pretty much everywhere he went. So, um, yeah, I really liked him as just an athlete. Wish we would have had him in his heyday, when he was at his best, but at least we had him for a little bit here as a positive influence. Okay, this is the fun part. So, training camp is not over yet, but we are nearing the final roster decisions. The Flyers have two preseason games left. Right? Two or three?
Two left. Yeah,
They have two left, right? One on Thursday, the day most of you will be listening to this, and then
and
one on
Saturday.
Saturday, which again, update for those who are not aware, that time was moved to earlier in the day, most likely because of the Phillies playoff game, which will be that day as well. And I think there's a Temple game as well here. Um, so just to get that out of the way, so the Flyers will be playing on Saturday morning. That'll be the end of it. But the roster is nearing its end. We'll go through the line combinations and everything afterwards. But first, we're just going to talk about players, like our thoughts. There's a lot of little subplots, a lot of there's a lot of interesting stories. There's been a lot of complaining on Twitter about people's performances. I don't agree with a lot of it. I have kind of like a probably different take than most people. But well, we're gonna go through a bunch of the players, kind of just state our thoughts, and it's not gonna be even that organized. But we're just gonna talk about a bunch of the players and our thoughts of, kind of who did what and what our expectations are of them, and then we'll go through line combinations in the second half of the show and how we see things kind of playing out to start the season. So, let's before we get into any of the young guys, but one of the biggest story that has come just from preseason alone. And they've obviously had a good reputation together so far and surprised me on how much Tocchet is willing to use them. The chemistry on on the ice is not surprising. You know, we talked about this. You were very much in favor of Michkov and Zegras playing together. I thought it would be a little bit risky in the defensive zone, and Tocchet has definitely acknowledged that publicly several times, but it does seem like he wants to go with it. And then when you see the evidence of the two of them, you know, after practice taking extra shots together or playing games together, joking around, there's obviously a relationship building there, which, you know, when you see something like that as a coach, you know, you want to listen to it. And when two guys like each other a lot and are finding chemistry naturally, you want to pay attention to it. So, Michkov and Zegras, you know, we can talk about them separately as well, but let's talk about the chemistry aspect first. Um, you got to say, it's been really exciting. I think, Vasili, you anticipated at least the on ice stuff, the
Yeah.
chemistry, right? But even beyond that, I didn't anticipate them to be buddy buddy so quickly, but it seems like that has been the case.
Well, it just seems like they speak the same language in a lot of different ways, whether that's on the
Yeah.
ice or off the ice. I mean, you could say, Michkov obviously doesn't speak English that great, but when it comes to the game of hockey, it's a universal language, right? These guys both think the game at a super high level, really skilled players. So for me, just what we've seen on the ice in terms of the chemistry so far, like I'm not too surprised. I just think the way both of these guys think and how they create offense is very similar to one another. They're very, close to the net type players. Zegras obviously is a guy that can thread the needle with the passing. So can Michkov. So then you have that ability where you have two guys that can really play off each other, pass the puck to one another. One of the preseason games earlier this season, where like Zegras made a really, really nice entry into the zone, just lays it off to Michkov. Then Michkov kind of cuts back in, then feeds it to him at the net front for a goal. Like that's just what I'm talking about, right? Where like you see how he can, Zegras opens the ice up, passes off to Michkov quickly. He knows exactly where to go. Michkov's going to find him. That's going to, I think, at least that type of play and like playing off of one another and saying, okay, give me the puck here quick. And I'm going to go over there and then you can find me over there. Like that's going to get even better as they gain more chemistry with one another because they're going to understand, okay, when I do this, you're going to go here. When you go and do that over there, you're going to go over here. So like when you start playing together more naturally, you're gonna see it even more on the ice, I think, as the weeks kind of go along. There's no telling whether they're gonna necessarily stay together. I think it'll be kind of about the defensive acumen for both of them. Like when you look at, okay, let's keep these guys together or not. Are they getting caved into their own end? Are they kind of outscoring the goals that they're giving up? But we'll see, right? And like even if they don't stay together as a pair, they're going to be together on the power play nonetheless. So I think it's beneficial to just have them as a pair in the preseason. Why not? Just to kind of get them familiar with each
Yeah.
other because they are your two most productive offensive players, most likely two most skilled players. I mean, them and Konecny, right? So to have all those three, I would say in general on the same page is going to be beneficial. But I think for Zegras too, like the one thing that's not surprising to me is kind of how he's not acclimated himself already because it hasn't been a long time, but he seemed to kind of fit in like a glove into, the organization. He's saying all the right things, making people laugh, like the personality and all that stuff. Like everybody seems to like him already, the media. I don't know if you saw the article, Yariv, that Greg Wyshynski put out. Yeah, it was like an ESPN
I
article.
did.
Yeah, talking about Zegras and just like the fact that when he went into detail about his struggles in Anaheim, how they weren't really giving him a shot and like things were kind of going south. I think the player also realizes, hey, even though things went bad there, and like I know that maybe they didn't give me the right opportunities, they didn't put me in the right place to succeed. I think he also realizes like the NHL is a league where people talk and narratives get kind of spun. And he kind of realized there's a narrative that got spun about him in terms of being a defensive player, maybe not necessarily the easiest guy to work with. And I think he realizes like I need to change that. And like so far you've heard Tocchet say, right? Like he wants to learn, easily coachable, will do anything I kind of say to him. And then also he has a chip on his shoulder, right? Like he notices it's a fresh start. So I not only want to take advantage of this fresh start, but I want to make sure that I don't waste the opportunity, right? Because how many more might you have? He's a very talented player, but we've seen it in the past with talented guys. Like if you're not willing to play that other side of the ice on the defensive end of the puck, like it doesn't matter how much skill you have, it just won't get tolerated in the NHL if you're gonna, make it as a center a lot of the time. So I think he even notices that, hey, I gotta
put more into the defensive game, my face off. So like it's encouraging for sure, at least what I've seen from Zegras. And then Michkov's Michkov. Like I don't need to really get into a ton with him, right? Like he has been kind of jumping off from where he left off last season. Like he finished off hot. He looks good in the preseason. He's involved in pretty much not all the scoring the teams had when he's playing in these games, but he's pretty much had a hand in a good majority of it. And that's kind of where he was at the end of last season. And he's kind of picking that right up. So I'm expecting, to be honest, from Michkov a point a game. Like that's what I see from him already. So
Yeah, so regarding the Zegers thing, the quote that obviously stuck out, and I think Greg Wyszynski, I think he tweeted about this specifically, that like it caught him off guard, that he said, I don't want to, he's like, I know I'm known as a good hockey player. He's like, I want to be known as a hockey player. And you think about the way that like Tocchet has referred to Noah Cates
yeah.
and Tyson Forrester, and he just says they're hockey players.
It's the narrative though, right? Like I was saying, like
And Mitch Cobb.
he realizes there's a narrative that was spun about him because of what happened in Anaheim that
Sure.
transpired, right? So
But yeah, but it's also no, you're 100% right. And it's also like you realize that, when he makes that kind of statement, is he wants people to recognize that he is a rink rat, that he loves the game.
he's
Like
invested.
Tortorella called Michkov a hockey player, right? Like when you see a guy on the ice first, on the ice last, like living and breathing hockey and engrossed in it, and is open to coaching and criticism and adjustments and all of that stuff. Like it's really that growth mindset that I think that they're referring to when they say something like that too. And that is key to being, like a Sidney Crosby is a growth
Yeah.
mindset. We talk about face-offs like Crosby or even Claude Giroux. We can use him as an example. Claude Giroux was not an amazing face-off guy when he came into the league. He became obsessed, right? He's like, I am going to be a good face-off guy. And he became one of the best. He became top 5 in the league because he put that attitude behind it. And I think Zegers wants the Giroux-like, you know, um, reputation, right? As being this like hungry, really skilled player who will make adjustments in his game. So you're absolutely right. And that was great to hear on the ice. I think we've only really scratched the surface of what he can do. We're seeing flashes of it, like that play that you're talking about with Michkov. But I'm very excited to see, and you can see it. We're going to go through the lines, but he is kind of being used as top line center right now. Um, I
Until
think
he
it's
gives you a reason, not to do it, because they've looked good so far. I
right.
say run with it because you're going to build his confidence up. And it was obviously in a place where it was broken down in the past based off what, transpired in
Yeah,
Anaheim. So we look at it, right? Like confident players are usually successful on the ice. And like when you have that confidence, that's when things are going. So if you're the Flyers, you want him to hit the ground running and like be highly
yeah,
confident heading into the season.
100%, dude. I do think there is an element of that to the not a mind game, but try to boost the confidence part too, and let him know that he's done well in preseason. And then Mitch Cobb, like you said it, dude. Like the guy looks like he's picking up exactly where he took off. You said point per game. I was just listening to Jason Martinez this morning, and he had this, I think, 85-point season. He expects 33 goals, 52 assists, I think he said.
Okay. We can do
Um,
like I think next week maybe we should do like predictions on certain
predictions.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be
yeah,
fun.
Um, yeah, and I think like as of right now, you really see how he has already probably become the best player on the team. Which actually I guess kind of translates just and we have a list here, but I'm going off our list of players because I don't care. But like Travis Konecny is actually one guy. I don't think he's had a very good preseason. I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
But he hasn't excuse me, he hasn't stuck out in any way, not offensively, not defensively. He hasn't looked bad either. He's just kind of, he was kind of part of that miserable game against the Capitals where everybody looked tired and all that. He also hasn't been played that much.
Yeah.
So I'm trying not to focus too much on
I
it.
would say too for a guy like Konechny Reeve, like I
He's
think
not
for
giving
him,
100%.
no, like these games, anybody I would say to be honest, like anybody that's been on the NHL roster cemented for 3 seasons plus, like this is more of a tune-up, and
Yeah,
that's
That's what it is. Like it's about getting ready for that first game. It's not about how you necessarily perform. Like what can I
100.
do in these reps. It's basically like practice. Like, what can I
Yeah.
do in this practice game to make sure that, hey, when this situation happens in the real game in a week, I don't fuck this up or I make
Yeah.
the right
Get your
play,
timing
right?
back,
Exactly.
get your endurance back, like in-game endurance.
All that stuff.
Yeah. So let's talk about Grebenkin. So he seems to be the one who won the camp spot. And I think that's a little bit of a false narrative in the sense that there was one spot. We'll talk about that in the second half of the show. But I will say this, I think he was your guy who you thought would make it.
I thought he would make it, and I'll go into like why and kind of what I've thought
Yeah.
about him in his preseason, but
Well,
you go ahead.
yeah, no, it makes sense. Your logic. I'll let you explain your logic. Overall, the biggest takeaway, and I do want to talk about Luchanko after him, but the one thing you notice about Grebenkin is that he does not feel out of place. Like, and I'm talking about it from his perspective. I put out a tweet about Luchanko about knowing that you belong. There's nothing when you watch Grebenkin that makes you question whether he thinks he's NHL ready. Like, he goes in, he's aggressive, he's to the net, he's playing his game. He is not getting distracted. He has not been perfect, right? He hasn't had a perfect camp, but he's had some highly effective moments. He's been highly aggressive, and you can see where he's being put in the lineup now when we go through the lines. I don't really think there's much of a doubt. I mean, we'll go through Abols as well, and there's some question marks around that too a little bit. But I mean, it makes sense. I mean, the kids look good. He scored. He didn't score on the penalty shot, but again, he had the initial opportunity. Then it looked like he was going to score on the penalty shot, just missed it. Then did bury a goal. He's made an impact in every game from
Yeah.
the rookie games till right now. So I think it's well earned. I'm excited to see, but I will caveat this with not just him, every single young guy or any player you see doing well in preseason. Remember, it is preseason.
They gotta keep it going.
Things will be different. The game will be different in regular season. So I'm very interested to see how he does. But the fact that he has been himself gives me confidence that it can continue into the season with him.
Yeah, he's playing his style, right? Like he's doing what he needs to do, like in terms of his skill set to make the team. Like he's playing his game out there. He's not trying to
Yeah.
adapt or change his game to make the team, for example, right? Like he's
Yep.
bringing the best of his skills. Like for me, the reason I kind of thought that he had the inside track to make the team in general, my thought process was he's not to say like a veteran in the AHL, but he's had considerably more AHL experience than
Mhm.
both,
Pro
Bump.
experience in general.
Yeah, pro experience like in the KHL, obviously, but yeah, just a ton more pro experience AHL, KHL than like Bump and Luchanko, obviously, and we're gonna talk about those guys too. So that was a big thing for me, and just the fact that he's had a taste of the NHL as well, right? Like he
Yeah.
played in the NHL with the Leafs, and he looked good with the Leafs in a fourth line role, and he got sent back down eventually. I just think too the way he's looked in camp, like. Obviously getting on the score sheet's a big deal. Like I think whenever you're on the bubble in a camp battle, no matter what it is, like they take into account the guys who are producing offensively because hey, if you can do it in the preseason, if you can't do it in the preseason against lineups that are potentially AHL full, like you're not going to be doing it when the competition gets increasingly more difficult, right? So that's one way to gauge it. But I also look at not just the offensive production, also just how he's kind of been using his skill set. Just hard on pucks below the goal line, really good retrieving pucks.
Yeah.
That's what he's going to need to do because even though right now, he's in a top two line role, the way the lines are shaking out, I imagine that's not always going to be the case. And he might end up on the third line potentially at some point, or maybe the fourth line, where it's not always going to be about the offensive opportunities, but it'll be about can we grind it in the corner, retrieve, loose pucks, kind of spend time on the forecheck, not always outcoming and like becoming a goal, but like can we just wear the other team down? He has that a part of his game. I just think too, like he showed some skill as well, right? Like he's flash skill in certain areas. Like cycling the puck comes to mind when he was playing with Couturier and Konecny the other night, like just cycling back and forth, passing it off to them, like the one-touch passing. So it's not just the fact that he can actually retrieve those loose pucks. He's skilled enough to play with, these top line type of players as well and complement them. So he's like almost a really good complement in the sense that he can kind of be the puck retrieval guy and like to the net physical type of guy potentially on a line, but he also has the skill to play with those types of guys that can keep up with them with the speed and
He's
everything.
shown some hands for sure.
Yeah, he definitely has. So like I think, he's earned it to your point, Yariv. I think he's earned it to this point. We'll kind of see how it continues. But yeah, he's looked really good to me so far. I've been impressed.
Yeah, I think so too. He's exceeded expectations, and if you guys remember, like Vasili thought Grebenkin had the inside track. I thought none of the guys were ready. I
Yeah.
listed Luchanko as making the team, but for different reasons than I thought he was like 100% ready. I didn't think any of them would make it. The only person I thought really was going to make it was Abols. And I thought that Luchanko would be held because of contractual reasons. We're going to talk a lot more about that. And I think that conversation seems to not be addressed very well online. So I'm going to address it on here. And I have some insight on Andrae that I don't think I've heard anywhere else. But let's talk about Luchanko a little bit. So obviously missed development camp over the summer, dealt with the injury the entire time, missed rookie camp, came in ready for preseason, didn't stick out really, didn't look bad, but didn't show anywhere near enough to be like, oh, this guy is ready for the next level until the last game where you really started seeing coming out of his shell. He was creating a lot. Now he wasn't shooting. That has obviously been a big topic online. Talk had even addressed it with the media. He wants to see it. And what was interesting in today's press conference, he talked about how Jet was flying out there and then ripped a shot top shelf. And he looked at Yogi. I think he said Yogi. And he's like, how do we get that out of the kid? So this is the difference that I think Luchanko has and Grebenkin. And mind you, they have a 4-year gap between these two players. Luchanko is waiting for them to tell him that he's ready. He doesn't know if he's ready. Grebenkin knows he's ready, right? So Luchanko right now, I believe they will hold on to him. I will say this. I think he will not be being sent back. And I think that's what they were waiting for is in that last game, coming out of his shell, right? Dude, you belong here. That's why we gave you the taste last year. We believe in you. You need to believe in yourself, which when you see a guy have opportunities to shoot and not shoot, that is a confidence thing. It doesn't mean he can't shoot or he won't shoot or he'll never shoot. I see a lot of people talking in definitives with Jet Luchanko, and I think that's absolutely outrageous. The kid just turned 19 over the summer. He's fresh 19. He's, barely an adult at this point. So I want to see it wasn't even enough what I saw, but that should have been his first preseason game. So I think they're probably going to play him at the very least one of these final preseason games. And I think there's a good chance that they're going to play him in both and also take him into the season. I think they want to see is that a sign that Jet is coming out of, not being warmed up and, missing those other games? Are we going to get that guy we saw and then watch him evolve throughout these games to do even more? And we saw that with Grebenkin, right? We saw hints of it, and then all of a sudden it was that big breakout game where it was probably his best game, and he stuck out the most, and then he was elevated in the lines, and then now he's still elevated in the lines, especially amongst the veterans. So I think that's where we are with Luch, and I think, the speed has not been an issue. Lightning fast, defensive positioning has been good. Just there's been hesitation. He's had some failed entries that have led to turnovers. And I think some of it is him passing the puck a little too quickly. This is all confidence stuff. This is dude, fucking take it. It's preseason. Take the play. Take it deep. Take the shot, So I think it's really important to see what we see in these next 2 games. And that will prove to us whether he actually belongs in the season. But regardless, I think they will extend him. And you sent me a message from Kevin Kerr. So I did know this, but it's good to announce it here. So his 10-game trial, that gets reset this year. So he does have the ability to play a 9-game trial. He does have that ability again this year. So I think they will take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think with Luchanko, I think the injury probably plays a factor. He hasn't been on the ice for a while, kind of getting back into the swing of things. My thing too is maybe a little bit of overthinking. You mentioned the hesitancy. I think he realizes, last season, I don't know if he realized he was really in competition to make the team till Tortorella was oh yeah, I love this kid, type of deal. He was kind of just doing his thing. He probably didn't have those expectations. And you make the team, and you're oh man, I made the NHL roster. Now I'm gonna have to make it next year. And he also realizes, look at all the other faces that are in competition with me now that also weren't here last season, right? Like Grebenkin wasn't here. Bump wasn't here. He sees that. He recognizes that those guys are internal competition. So that's a little bit of pressure on the kid, right? So I think we have to acknowledge that as well. But I think to your point, like he's progressively gotten better throughout the training camp and the preseason, right? And I think that's the thing to kind of harp on, that every preseason outing, at least for me that I've watched, like that initial one, he had some decent plays with Bob, nothing too crazy. But the last one, he really popped. And the last outing, especially, like just showing his speed and his passing and playmaking ability, right? Like I think we all know that we need him to shoot more, but at the end of the day, his the best facet of his game is going to be that playmaking ability, that vision, that ability to like thread the needle, find a player and transition off the rush using his speed and his playmaking and passing ability. So I think the Flyers, it's great that they're trying to bring out the other aspect like of his offense in terms of the shooting and not being hesitant. But I think he's always going to be that guy that's going to be more of a playmaker type first. And I think if you're looking at the makeup of the roster and if you're going to keep him around, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because you had him playing with Owen Tippett essentially all preseason. And I mean, he's a shoot first type of player. So if you're going to have a guy to play with him, put a guy that's just as fast, as him and Luchanko, and a guy that's going to pass a lot like Luchanko. It makes a lot of sense to me. So I like what I've seen from him. I think he's going to get better as we continue to go on. He's a young player. First of all, only 19, like you said. And I would say, like, with all these young players, like, there's always an adjustment period. So he's going to have this 9-game trial. We're seeing flashes, but, like, we're going to, at least in my opinion, we're going to see him get progressively better probably as we go along here, because just the fact that, let's say, he is kept around, that's like almost a vote of confidence for him. And that's going to be like what he needs, to your point. You have to take that step to be like, hey, like I made it. I can do it. I need to take it now, right? So it's like, I think keeping him as long as they did, even though he hasn't necessarily like blown the doors off, it's like, hey, don't worry. Like, don't be nervous, kid. Like, we see your potential. We are invested in you. Like, don't worry. It's going to come out.
Go play your game.
Go play your game, pretty much.
Yeah. And I think if they had the exemption rule, I think they would still take him to the end of preseason. If he showed like what he showed so far, they would probably start him off in the minors for the beginning of the season. And,
I'd agree. I would say too, we could all agree on that like if he was able to go to the AHL, probably the best spot for him right now, because he could play first line minutes, be their first line center, all situations. He's not going to be able to do that here at the NHL level, but sending him back to Guelph does him no favors. He's better off, at least for his development and where he needs to go in his career, playing in NHL games, NHL situations, NHL reps, so he at least understands what he needs to do to improve, even if he might not be fully ready in certain aspects, right? But that's what the coaching staff's going to have to gauge and say, like, hey, should we put him out here in this situation? Is he ready for that? Is he ready for this? That's where they'll have to come in and kind of gauge it based on his performance and also just like how he's dealing with everything that's coming at him. So
yeah. Let's talk about Rodrigo Abols, because I feel like he's part of that kind of that final group of it's 3 guys left. As of today, Gaucher was sent to the minors. He was one of the other guys. So it's really down to Luchanko, Abols, and Grebenkin as they decide what they want to do with there. So I would imagine one of those 2 will not be able to stay, potentially.
It depends though, because Gilbert, Juulsen, right?
Right, exactly. So we're gonna get into that. I think there's a good chance all 3 of them will stay. Actually, I think that's the highest likelihood. But Rodrigo Abols, for those who saw the lineups that were put together, over the summer and in the beginning of the season when we were kind of playing around with Puckpedia, I had Abols in the NHL the entire time. I think it makes complete sense. One, he's been, this is like the difference of Abols and a lot of the other guys, is Abols has been played in his role throughout preseason. Like, he hasn't been played 18, 19 minutes a night. He's been played 12, 13 minutes a night. They're using him in a bottom 6 role where he would play at the NHL squad. But again, on paper, the guy's 6'4". He's got jump to his step. He's good at defense. He's got some offensive pop. Like, he is an ideal.
He scored in multiple games, right? So he's showing that as well.
And well, he's an ideal 4th line player. He's not old, right? He's just under 30. So this is like, I think this is, I don't know if it's a Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, but this is another example of like finding a good European player who's a good pro. Raffle. I don't know if he's going to be as good as Raffle, but if he is, that's a huge win. He's had a great preseason. But I think for sure that the team sees the role for him, like on the 4th line, probably in the opening night lineup. There are some questions that kind of came up from that, from like Charlie O'Connor says that he kind of sensed some hesitation from his question in the press conference. I don't know about that. And quite frankly, I'm not sure that this is going to be completely up to Tocchet. We'll see about it, but it looks to me like Abols has earned the right to be in the opening night lineup, especially when you consider like Delorier, who had one beautiful setup to Abols, by the way, that
Yeah, it was
Abols
nice.
ended up dishing into a goal. He's just not an everyday NHL player. So if you really look at the fourth line, and the guy can play center and wing, I mean, I think Abols gives you exactly what you need in that
Yeah.
13th forward role, 12th forward role. So I've loved this preseason. He's exactly what I thought he was going to bring. And quite frankly, if you look at last season, he's doing a better job of what he was able to do last season, where he's stuck in
Yeah.
the NHL as well.
Well, I think one of the things with Abols is that like he was always, or at least seemed to me like a smart player, positionally knew where to be. Obviously, a lot of reps just with all the years played in Europe, and then before that, having AHL time as well. I just think a big knock on him was always like he was too good for the AHL and like a step slow for the NHL. And you're seeing this preseason, he looks a touch faster. So I wonder if just getting back into the North American kind of hockey sphere last season, the AHL, NHL, he kind of realized, hey, that's one aspect. If I want to really stick in the NHL, I need to work on that. It seems like that, has come to fruition where he really worked on that speed in the offseason. He got a little bit faster. But I think just the performance in the preseason, like you can't see what he's done and say, hey, he hasn't earned a spot, right? Like he's been on the bubble the whole time. It hasn't really affected him. He's had assists, he's scored goals, he's looked good playing with some of the top of the lineup type guys. And when he's been put in just strictly fourth line type roles, he's also looked good there too. So I think the beneficial thing with Abols is kind of like the Swiss Army knife ability, where like you could play him on the fourth line, but you could play him up if you needed to, and you could play him at center, and you could play him on the wing. So there's a lot of different versatility, a lot of different things that you could kind of do with him. I think it's kind of flexibility, and that's what you want as a coach, right? You want to be able to have a player where you don't have to necessarily tailor everything to them. If it's a situation that might not be the best, well, here we can plug him in, and he's going to kind of turn water into wine or something like that. But let me read the quote from Tocchet, because I thought it
Yeah.
was interesting. But this is what he mentioned in his presser about Abols. He stated, this is the way I honestly think. He's got to pay the mortgage, right? He wants to be an NHL player. It's my job to give him feedback on how to be an NHL player. I think for him, he's 6'4", pretty good skater. He's got a hell of a shot. You guys saw it the other night. There's some things there, but I think there's more there for him to be an NHL player. I don't think, he's got the job that he's an NHL player right now. He's trending to that. We had to talk about that. I like his frame. I like his thinking. To me right now, it's the consistency. Can he put together games of consistency? I told Danny the other day, I like this guy. Let's keep him around. Whether he plays tomorrow night or now, I don't know, but there's something there, and I know he's got to find it. When you're on the bubble, you got to do something consistently every day. That's the rules of the NHL. You've got to see it from him every single day. It's almost like he's got to be uncomfortable when he plays. It's my job to make him comfortable, knowing the system and helping him out. But he's got to have that uncomfortable feeling like if I want to make the NHL, it's going to be hard every day. That's just the way it is. Can we get him to there? I don't know, but I do like his camp so far. He's done a nice job. So
Yeah.
interesting from Tocchet. To me, that quote just screams like if he makes the team, the way he's going to stick is he's gonna have to continue to play the way he has in preseason throughout and be consistent and kind of show that level of consistency, not tail off after he's made the team, right? So
Yeah, and that's the thing about Tocchet, right? He doesn't have last year as a point of reference, right? So even though
fresh
he
eyes on
sees
all these guys, pretty
right,
much.
so if he sees a guy do well in preseason, he doesn't know that Abols did well last season. Like yeah, he can hear it from people, but he's gonna want to judge stuff for himself anyway. I think he's gonna be pretty happy with Abols, and even if he does get sent down, he has to pass through waivers, which I don't think it's a high likelihood he would get taken or anything, but there is a chance with him just because of what he brings to the table.
And
So I
he's a
don't think,
center, so
yeah, I don't think the Flyers will be jumping to put him through waivers. Let's put it that way, because there is the risk of losing him. Not a high risk, low risk, but I do think they want him in the organization. He's a valuable asset. And even a guy like Delorier, there's a chance somebody would take him too, because there's always a need for muscle. And there are teams out there with cap space that would, for the same reason why the Flyers like Delorier. Look, I've said it over and over again. He's not an everyday NHLer, but he has value. The physical element he brings is elite for
talk to the guys in the
the
locker
fighting.
room
Right,
if
exactly.
they value what he brings, and they
And the
do
locker
so.
room. Exactly. So, um, He looks good in that respect. So I think Abols realistically probably should take that line. Having said that, that was not the case in practice today.
Yeah,
It
but we'll
was
see.
actually Luchanko and Delorier
He was
rotating.
rotating in. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, that just mean for, again, we still got 2 preseason games left here, and Abols has played every preseason game.
They
So
might be cognizant of that like this guy's kind of running on fumes. Let's give him
right,
a little
exactly.
break
We're
this
we're
practice, maybe.
yeah, we're playing him a lot, and we've seen a lot from him. Okay, the other guy we want to talk about is Alex Bump. So he was pre- prematurely dictated as the most likely to make the team. I was very skeptical of that
You
to
have to
begin
see it
with.
in preseason, right? Like you can't just
Right,
say,
like
"Hey, it's
dev camp and
him."
all. Yeah, but for me, it's always been like he's barely played pro hockey. He didn't
Yeah.
dominate AHL hockey yet. He is can go to the AHL. I think this is the wise move. I don't think he played terrible in camp. I think if the Flyers didn't have so many good young players, that it wouldn't even been a question. He would have been the guy. But we don't have that type of farm system anymore. There are now a handful of guys,
That's what you
and we'll
want,
talk
though.
about Barkey too, that really showed some good flashes out there. Bump was not perfect. Obviously, that goal that he gave up, I don't think that's what made or broke him. But his response to it, right? He didn't respond well enough
Yeah.
to making that mistake. It wasn't the mistake, it was the response to the mistake. And again, I think they want Bump coming into the NHL with confidence.
Hitting the
So
ground running. Yeah.
right. So I think the goal is get him down there, play top line for the Phantoms. He's almost surely going to be top line, probably with Richard on his
And
other
power
wing.
play.
Right. Top line power play. Let him get points in and let him come into the NHL. Remember, there will be injuries.
He'll get
There will
games
be
this
trades.
season for
Right.
sure.
Like there's a lot of changes coming to this organization over the next 12 months. I hope people are aware of that. For those who think that this is what it is. And we'll comment on that in the second half of the show.
Yeah, one thing
But
I'll
I liked
caveat.
him. I liked him. You know, not enough, but I liked him. I didn't think he made the team either.
No, I didn't think he had a bad preseason or bad training camp or anything. I just think like he didn't pop enough. I think for him to make it, he would have had to really like not
He
only
didn't score.
flash. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing, right? Like I think there was flashes of his scoring ability, flashes of what he could do well, like get in on the forecheck, use his size on the rush to create chances, stuff like that. Like there's a couple chances when he was playing with Couturier and Konecny where he looked pretty decent. They were like creating some stuff on the rush. Didn't look bad. I just think for him, he always needs to produce a little bit because if you're like I said earlier, right? If you're not producing in the preseason, once the competition gets harder, are you going to produce at that level once you're actually in the NHL? And I think to your point, he hasn't had much pro experience at all. And I think he might have got a little bit I don't really know I don't really know how to put it. Like he was highly touted, I think, obviously because he looked good, in the AHL and had a great like NCAA season and everything. But I think maybe people put too high of expectations on him to make the team and things like that. Like you have to remember he's a fifth round pick. You usually don't like when do you see fifth round picks make the NHL in their first training camp or preseason ever? Like it's typically not the case, right? So like him going to the NA or to the AHL, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think he had flashes. I think that giveaway behind the net where it ended up being that late, like last second goal, I don't think that was necessarily a product of him getting sent down. I just think to your point, like they wanted to see him after that come out and score a goal and be like, I messed that up, but like I can still affect and impact the game in a positive way, even though stuff like that could happen sometimes where you make mistakes. Like I think they wanted to see him respond positively, which he didn't necessarily hit the ground running and do that. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think he showed some flashes of what everybody loved from him, in the AHL and, playing with Michigan last season. I just think you didn't see enough from him, right? Like you saw the flashes, but he didn't necessarily continue it shift to shift or game to game. There was just, a couple flashes every game, but there wasn't a lot of consistency. So I think they're
Yeah.
looking for him to kind of become more consistent at the AHL level, show you're doing it on a game to game basis. And then when he earns that call up and there's an injury, he'll probably be one of the first guys that they call up depending on who's hurt. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. I think they wanted him to make the team, but I think their
you
expectations
got to
also.
show it. You got to
Yeah.
show it too. So
I think while they talk about things publicly in a certain way, there is a roster management to all of this. Waivers,
yeah.
contract spots, roster spots at the NHL level. I think they were always ready for the opportunity that he would be sent down, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think this is probably the better decision. Just like we didn't want Porter Martone to go to college, we wanted to see him now, but the right decision was for him to play in college hockey for one more year and come in and just really hit the ground running. I think for Bump, it was awesome that he played in the playoffs. He didn't dominate the AHL though, and I think he's capable of dominating the AHL.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think giving him like 10 games in the AHL is only going to benefit him, where he can excel and play his, again, we'll go back to that comment, play his game without hesitation and come in, be like, I belong in pro hockey. Now I'm ready to jump to the next level. So I think we're going to see that from Bump probably in the very beginning of the season, probably in preseason for the Phantoms. You will probably see him scoring and getting on the scoreboard in one way or another, assists or whatever. You're probably going to see him excel, and then in a short time he'll make his way up.
Yeah, we'll see how he takes it. Hopefully, it's all
Yeah.
positive for him.
Yeah. So the other guy I want to talk about is Denver Barkey, who I think did pretty much what I thought he was going to do, which was exceed expectations. Again, because the Flyers have so many good young players, he's not forgotten about in any sense. But it's like, no, we just don't have the spot for him right now. He belongs 100% in the AHL, but I think he looked more ready than anybody anticipated. I think back to that overtime power play of Barkey, which I love the way Tocchet has handled the lines in preseason. He experiments much more than Tortorella. Tortorella was much more like veteran heavy in his approach in preseason. Tocchet has experimented with everything, and I've absolutely loved it. Throwing out all kids with Andrae, Luchanko, Grebenkin, and Barkey, and you look at the way Barkey moved the puck, man, that kid is going to be good. I don't know if he's going to be like, surefire top six player, but I do think that potential is in him. There's going to be a transition, but he doesn't look that far away from it. And I think at the very least, we found a really good top 9 player. And I look at, other guys in the system, and I think he's going to leapfrog them. And I think he should probably play in the Phantoms, the whole year. But I think he already showed enough that if this was a bottom of the NHL team, like really like starting from scratch, there's a chance he would have made the NHL. I don't think he's that far away from it. Yes, he is small, but he does not get physically outmuscled all the time. But the right place for him is to take that year in the AHL. I think he's going to be a top 6 forward for the Phantoms. I think he's going to be one of the guys playing with Bump, for the early parts of the season. And probably by the end of the season for the Phantoms, he's going to be like one of the most relied upon guys. I absolutely loved what I saw from Barkey in preseason. I am, for where this kid was taken, I am over the moon. Probably maybe the most excited I've been for a 3rd round pick since Shane Gostisbehere. And I think he can have an impact like Shane Gostisbehere, like undersized guy, forgotten about, but came in to the league, will probably put up more points than people anticipate. He just seems like that type of guy. Like I see a world where he could be a 55, 60 point player, and a second line player in the NHL. I see that upside from him. I don't know where he'll end up, but I love what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I think in the preseason, like we kind of expected, he's just that guy that's going to stick around. Work ethics off the charts. I would say like in the last game specifically, just the way him and Andrae were running the power play, you really got to see his skill kind of wheeling around
Yeah.
behind the net and stuff
Yep.
like that. He was really showcasing it. That power play looked really good. So at least for Barkey, I think like to your point, like we all knew he was never really going to make the team, right? Unless he kind of like went on some crazy scoring run where we were scoring a goal every single game, something nuts like that. But
Right.
you saw the flashes of things that make him an effective player. And I think a lot of the upper echelon management, like Briere, Jones, you were probably seeing that and saying, hey, this kid's looking good this late in camp again. That's another, thing to note. And they're probably going to keep, a real close eye on him when he's with the Phantoms. But I expect with the Phantoms, like he's going to be in a top 6 role, like you said, power play time as well. And depending on what happens and just how his season goes, like I expect he probably will get a full year down there, but you just never know in terms of what type of player gets injured.
Wouldn't shock me.
It wouldn't shock me if he's ripping it up down there, scoring at a really high pace. Somebody in the top 6 gets injured. Maybe they're like, hey, let's give this kid a shot, see what happens. Who knows?
maybe wishful thinking, but I just think it all depends on performance. And I think the work ethic with him is just the main thing. Like he seems like he really wants it. And there's always been that chip on his shoulder just with the being undersized. And I think he knows that he has to work harder and, kind of put his all into everything that extra little bit more just because of that size factor. He kind of has to use that and prove people wrong all the time. So I think that's why you see him play the way he does at such a small size. And he's just willing to go in there and compete. So
Yeah.
interested to kind of see how he develops, how it keeps going.
Me too. Okay, let's talk about Jacob Gaucher a little bit because he was sent down. I thought he had a pretty good camp, actually. Didn't really get beat. Played a
think about his role, right? Think about his role.
Game.
He's like that fourth line type of center. That's what he's kind of getting groomed to be, I would say.
Yeah, so. He's only 24 years old. He's a young guy. It's a very impressive story. Like, again, undrafted, ECHL guy, moves up to the AHL, does well in the AHL, gets shot at the NHL, obviously, lasts pretty long at camp. It's not realistic to keep him with the team. Plus, he is waiver exempt. Not that I think a team would take him. I don't think his reputation is out there like that. But I do like what I saw from him. And I think he will probably continue playing in the top 6 for the Phantoms. And there might be like a few, I don't think he's the type of guy who's going to make the Flyers by the end of the year. It is possible. But if he doesn't make the Flyers, I do see, another NHL team being like, there might be a fourth line center role for this guy. I thought
try to acquire him.
Yeah, he doesn't get beat. He plays well along the walls. He's responsible defensively. I think that's why Taka held on to him.
I just think about him in like a defensive specialist type role in the future. Like I think that's kind of what they're grooming him for. Like, and I think he realizes that. Like you're
right-handed.
You're coming from playing in the ECHL, working your way up. Like I think he understands like, hey, if I'm going to make it in the NHL, my role is going to be, I'm never going to be a guy who's scoring goals and really being an offensive type player, maybe chipping here and there. But he knows himself that he needs to be that defensive type of specialist where it's like, I'm reliable on faceoffs. I'm positioned well defensively, physical on the boards, puck battles, can play on the penalty kill for you too. That's a big thing as well. I think for the Flyers, I think if there's any sort of injury to a center in the bottom 6, like he's gonna get called up, in my opinion, just because of that defensive acumen, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. So good for him. I'm glad he's getting noticed. The guy obviously works his butt off. Otherwise, he would not have evolved that much over the past several
tremendous
years. And you know what? What's even nicer about it is Lappy's not around, who loved him.
Yeah.
And he's still getting respect from coaches, right? Like Taka saw something in him too, enough to keep him this long. So good for him. He's at the NHL age. So even if he doesn't make it with the Flyers, I do see an opportunity for him, with another. I don't ever think he's going to be a great NHL player, but he could find himself like a nice role with an NHL team as like a fourth line player. I think that potential is there for him. So good for him.
Definitely. Yeah.
The more exciting guy is his best friend, Alexis Gendron, and I know we both want to talk about him. I got to say, man, the amount that this kid has evolved from last camp to this camp is tremendous. Like the speed, the shooting, the aggression is what I didn't expect. Like the aggression on the forecheck, like he might not end up being a top 6 forward in the NHL, but he's showing that he might be good for even a bottom 6, like maybe third line role, which is kind of what we hoped for him. He has a big season ahead of him in the AHL. He will also be in the mix for the top 6 spot, definitely top 9 for the team. I don't think he's going to be sitting in that bottom 6 anymore for the Phantoms. And I loved what I saw from him. I got to say, like the kid's shot is spectacular. His speed is tremendous. And, you think about what a guy like Barkey brings. Gendron is starting to bring a lot of that same stuff. Now, he's not as good defensively, but he also is maybe the best shooter in the Phantoms, or at least top 3, with Bump and like Tuamala. So gotta say, loved what I saw from Gendron. He's on their radar. I don't think he's coming up to the NHL this year. But I wouldn't be shocked if the guy's like AHL All-Star caliber, this year or next year. And, he already scored 20 goals last year. So
and barely played a lot of the time.
Right. He's playing bottom 6 role. So I'm very interested to see how he evolves as the season goes on.
Well, yeah, I just go back to like what in juniors you had like crazy numbers, like 60 goals in like 55 games and like goal a game
Yeah.
type shit. Like I look at that and like you just see his shot. First of all, his shot is an NHL shot right now, just kind of based on what I'm seeing. Like in the preseason, we saw him score. We're seeing him make plays too. And like when he's playing out there, it's not like he's been playing with players that are like not skilled. He's playing with skilled players. He's keeping up with them. He's making plays. He's looking like he belongs on an offensive standpoint. I still think there's stuff obviously with the defensive game they want him to learn and clean up because he's still a young player. I think that's going to be a focus probably in the AHL because he's not perfect there. But I think he realizes and the organization realizes if there's going to be a role for him, it's going to be a scoring type of role where he's going to be able to need to, produce offensively. And he's kind of showing you put him in the preseason with skilled guys that have NHL caliber, and he can keep up and he looks like he can produce and like he has a potential upside at that level. So I just think for a seventh round pick and a guy whose father obviously, was in the NHL, I think that plays a factor too, because he probably saw his dad go through it and like kind of what it takes and things like that. So I always factor that into it with these types of players. So yeah, I think for Gendron, I'm like, I feel like he's going to have a really big season in the AHL. Like, I don't want to say like crazy numbers, but like, I think like he's going to score a lot of goals. We'll see, but
like, don't you feel like 30 goals is possible for him if you put up 20 in the role he was playing and he's
yeah,
on a better
definitely.
team this year?
Definitely. I
Like
think
30
it's
goals at the AHL level is no joke. Like that's
mm-mm.
not common. That's like 40 goals in the NHL. Like they don't
Yeah.
score at the same rate at the AHL that they do in the NHL.
I
Like the
think it's
top
definitely
scorers are usually
possible.
20 some goals.
I just look at the shot, right? Like, and that's kind of what has been his bread and butter throughout junior coming to the AHL. Even in the preseason, we're seeing the shot translate. It doesn't matter what level he's playing at. So,
Yeah. Yeah, the goal scoring is translating. That's for sure. Like he could be that guy who just I don't know. I look at the skill set. I'm like, this is top six forward material skill set.
yeah.
It's just will it translate to the NHL at a full time
Or
capacity?
will he get the opportunity anyway?
Yeah, but
So,
if he keeps up that grittiness that he showed, he will get the opportunity. If not
I
here,
agree.
somewhere else for sure. Because the grit will allow him to fit into third line roles, which is where
Yeah.
he'll get his opportunity.
It's bad
Um,
to say. I think the fact his father also played in the NHL gives him
Absolutely,
a better opportunity.
the
Yeah.
lineage, yeah, definitely helps him. I think we're gonna go through all the rosters so that we can talk about other guys through. I think the last one of the fours we should about is maybe Devin Kaplan.
Yeah.
He did have some really nice flashes. The skill surprised me because he's been playing a bottom six role in NCAA and not putting up like a lot of points. But Steve Kornianos did say he's good.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I look at him and I understand why Wisdom was kind of cut out a little bit because he
It's
brings
almost his replacement.
it's
Yeah.
his replacement, only he's 3 inches bigger, 3 to 4 inches bigger than him. And the
Size matters.
aggression,
Yeah.
yeah, the aggression, the skating, it's all there. There is an NHL upside for that kid. I liked what I saw from Kaplan. I don't think he's close to NHL ready. I think he's going to need like a couple years at the AHL level. But I wouldn't be shocked if he like could be a future like Hathaway type of guy.
Power checking kind of forward on like a bottom line type of thing. I see it for sure.
Yeah,
I think his camp
maybe third line. I mean, he's got
it's
some
it's
scoring touch for
it's
sure.
possible. I think from him what I like the most is just like when you see him out there, like a lot of the times in the puck battles, he was coming away with the puck, and
Yeah,
that's what he's kind of gonna need to do to really cement himself, whether it's at the AHL or NHL level. He's gonna have to be that guy, especially with his size, that when you're going into battles, they're gonna want him to get that puck, retrieve it, and then feed off to his line mates kind of. That's going to be his role. So I think if he just continues what he's doing, it'll be interesting to see in the NHL if we see more scoring opportunity, more scoring pop, like if they have him maybe in like a net front role. I don't really know, but
yeah,
it'll be
yeah. That's a
interesting.
good guess, actually. Yeah, he could play top six too. Right now, I have him slated as third line player in the AHL.
Yeah.
But we will see. I'm again another guy I'm really curious to watch evolve. A lot of it is attitude, attitude, work ethic at this point, and this is not everybody. Like Luchanko is more skill, and Barkey bump, even Tuamala. But
It's all
like,
about fit though, sometimes to your point. Like let's
yeah,
say Garnet Hathaway gets hurt. They might not want to call up Alex Bump to be like, "Ooh, you're playing in Garnet Hathaway's spot on the
right.
fourth line tonight." They probably would call up Kaplan because that's the role he would play if he made the NHL. So
100%. Great point. Even to Jacob Gaucher,
all that, yeah.
but guys who can grind it out, right? Like really grind it out and bring a physical game. And it seems like he can skate. Kid can skate too, which is good. All right, let's talk about the defense and let's get the first one out of the way because this is the hot topic. So, Emil Andrae did not make the NHL. Now, the point, okay, so obviously it's been a little bit of a cluster for the bottom pairing, right? This is a big reason why the Flyers held on to Risto. Everybody was like, trade him, trade him, trade him. And then now you see what happens with the defense when you don't have Ristolainen in here because you add Erasmus Ristolainen into this group. The top four is filled in. Sealer becomes the anchor, the cornerstone of the bottom pairing, which we know he excels in that role. You can throw anybody with him, and they would probably be a pretty good bottom pairing line. So we don't have that luxury. So it's been a little bit of a cluster. And then you even consider the success that Andrae and Zamula both had with a guy like Risto. That kind of changes things as well, plus the handedness and all that. So now Andrae is most people's favorite to make the team. He did not make the team. Part of it is definitely his size and the fact that, and I've brought this up and I've shown you guys evidence. If you remember, if you have followed me and watched every episode, I show you how the defense breaks down. Tocchet talks about this. You cannot have three offensive defensemen on the team. You actually need a penalty killer above that in the bottom pairing role if you already have guys who can play the power play. So there is an actual need. They're not just making it up for that guy. Now, Zamula is not going to be a power play guy. And I do think Andrae has the ability for a call-up. But the biggest reason I think he was sent to the minors, which I did not see mentioned, he is the only one of these guys who is waiver exempt. And I talk about it all the time that the opening night lineup does not matter, but you are managing contracts and rosters. I think if he was lights out better than everybody, they would have taken the risk and be like, okay, we might lose one of these guys through
Gilbert go
waivers.
down or one of these guys
They
go
would have
down.
just pulled the trigger. But because there wasn't a big difference between anybody, let's be honest, if Andrae was not waiver exempt, he would have not been sent down. He is waiver exempt.
Yeah.
He wouldn't get claimed. That is a huge reason. I don't think they gave up on him. I can understand why people are saying, I think Jamie tweeted out they should trade him. Maybe they should, to be honest with you. That's
not going to give him an opportunity. Then,
right. Yeah. That's not a terrible idea because he has value. There is almost no chance, in my opinion, that if he was passed through waivers, he would not be claimed.
Oh, he would have got claimed in like 2 seconds.
It's got to be like a 90 to 95% chance to be claimed. So I don't think he would have not made the team. I think they would have been like, okay, this is his last opportunity. I don't think the Flyers view it as his last opportunity. Having said that, he needs to respond well. I don't think he had a terrible preseason. I think he had some highlights. I think he's clear-cut the best puck mover of the defensemen we are talking about here. And that would be Zamula, Yinning, Gilbert, and Juulsen. I think it's a shame that he didn't go lights out, but I think the opportunity is still there. He's on a pretty good unit. He might play with Bonk. He might play with Grans. Samson's out, but he's going to obviously be in the mix. He's going to be the number one defenseman down there. There's no reason that he can't go down to the AHL, dominate, and get a call up. This defense.
Well, if somebody gets hurt as well, so
yeah. But this defense is also like outside of the top four guys that are healthy.
Not cemented at all.
It's not cemented. So I see definitely an opportunity for him to get a call up, and play with Yinning or Gilbert or Juulsen or Zamula.
No, I agree. I think Andrae, I like this camp. Like he didn't necessarily like blow the doors off, like you said, right? Like I think if you would have blown the doors off, showed flashes, maybe scored a couple goals or like not a couple of really nice assists or something that were really like you could point it and say he really engineered that play, I think he would have made the team because I think ultimately it's about who can make the most plays, who can benefit the team the most on the ice. And I think if you would have shown that, despite the contract, kind of management they have to consider, they would have just said whatever. He's been the best clear cut. He's going to get the spot, but nobody has really cemented themselves. Everybody's kind of been a little bit underwhelming in a sense.
Yes.
I think what really is kind of hindering his shot and kind of what screwed him over, I guess, in this situation would be the fact that the size factor, you have Risto out, like you mentioned, and just there's already two defensemen that they think are probably better offensive defensemen and power play defensemen than him.
They are, in my
in New
opinion.
York, and yeah, and Drysdale. And you can't say the team's wrong on that. Maybe if he got a shot, maybe he could prove it, but like you don't know, right? So at this point, it's true. Those two guys are better than him on the power play, and in moving the puck up in transition at the NHL level. So it is what it is. You're going to obviously prioritize trying to have a little bit more size on the back end, considering Ristolainen's out. I think if Ristolainen was in the lineup, the conversation becomes completely different because you
I
have
think
your
so
guy
too.
there with size. And I mean, we'll talk about Zamula. I don't think he's been good at all in preseason. I think he's looked pretty bad.
We
There's
can
been
talk.
some
We can get right into him. Yeah, go for
yeah,
it.
well, there's been some turnovers. Like for me, I think there's more upside in the NHL for Andrae than Zamula. I think Zamula's gotten like, you know, 2 seasons under his belt so far in the NHL, right? So like a new coaching staff and Rick Talking comes in and sees this guy's been in the NHL for the last 2 seasons. I don't really know him. I don't know his game. So like they're obviously going to want to see him. They're not just going to see him like for 4 games in the preseason and be like, yeah, Zamula right to the AHL. So he was naturally always going to make the team, I think.
Yeah, I think so
I
too.
would say Andre's chance to potentially get back onto the rosters if Zamula continues to underwhelm like a month through the season.
Sure.
That's where
Yeah.
they're going to be like, hey, Andrae plays a similar game. He's not as big as him, but they're both the puck movers on their pairing with the defensive guy that would be like Sealer, whoever it's going to be. So I think that'll be kind of his pathway back if Zamula underwhelms. That'll probably be what
Yeah.
what will have to happen.
Yeah, because you look at Zamula on paper, he's 6'3", he can move the puck.
Not
He
physical at
can
all.
skate. He's not physical. I would actually argue Andre is more physical.
And more aggressive. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
But Zamula, I don't think he's had as bad of a camp as everybody. I understand why people say what he said. But if I look at the way they tested Zamula, they played him primarily in a top pairing role the entire preseason. They even in that game where they beat Boston, which again was no difficult thing. He was the only NHL regular in that game. He played what 24 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
He was being used much higher than his actual NHL usage. So I think he got exposed playing a role that, unlike Abols, who played his actual role, Zamula was being played above his role. So I think he bought grace
Maybe.
from the coaching staff for being like, oh, we're really going to test him. So just because we see him fail at certain points, he's still pretty young in their mind, right? He's not old. He's 25, right? I think he's 25.
24, 25. But I would say with Zamula, like
25.
I think to me, like the thing that kind of jumps off the page and like why it's kind of gone this way with him is like they they didn't see him last season. They haven't seen his shortcomings in the past. Like we've obviously seen it and
Sure.
what the pitfalls are. Like I think my knock of him is like he takes that extra second to make the pass or to like make the play.
Doesn't
Too
move with
hesitant,
pace.
too
Yeah.
hesitant sometimes. And I think this coaching staff hasn't seen that because you just haven't seen him play enough games yet. But I think once they see it, like, and
Well,
who knows, he might. This is preseason. It's a tune-up for everybody, so he might not be taking this as seriously
well,
as everybody thinks. He might know he has a spot locked up, so it's not like a make or
I
break kind of
also
situation
I
for him,
think
right?
well, I think you brought up a great point, and I look at Todd Reardon, who has a reputation similar to Shaw. Like maybe he literally looks at a guy like Zamula and he's like, well, the guy's got all the on paper, he's got what I'm looking for. Maybe I can work with this. You know what I
Maybe,
mean? Like
yeah.
maybe I can make him better. Like we look at Sanheim, who evolved considerably at 25, 26, 27 to being a legitimate top pairing probably on at least half the teams in the NHL today. Like he's a number 3 on the best team in the league, and majority of teams he's a number 2. And
Yeah.
a lot of people gave up on him. So I look at it, maybe they're looking at his overall skill set and going, we can get more out of him also, right? He's like we said, he's 6'3", he can move the puck. Let's see if we can get his pace up, right? Let's see if we can get him more aggressive. And if not, like you said, Andrae can be called up. There's other defensemen out there. So I think people are being a little harsh on Zamula, but I also understand because I don't think he played like amazing or anything.
Yeah. I think
But
people just like Andre a lot more than him too, just based on what they've seen at the
yes,
NHL,
100%.
unfortunately. So it is
I
what it
think
is.
there's definitely
And
some of
that's me
that.
included. I've at the NHL level,
I
I've
like
seen
Andre better
Zamula,
too.
I've seen Andre. I like what I see from him
We've
more
said
on the
it.
ice.
We've
Yeah.
said it for a while that we think Andre has a higher ceiling. So it's almost like if you could take Andre's game and put it in Zamula's body, that would be a top, an NHL defenseman today, right?
Yeah,
So,
right.
we'll see how things pan out, but I would not,
That's
again,
something to watch. It's something to watch
I
for
didn't
sure.
see anybody bring up Andre's waiver exemption, and I needed to bring it up because I'm like, I do this
It plays a
every
factor,
every
man,
it
for sure.
definitely does. And every year, and this is what we were talking to Bill about. It's like, and he agreed. I'm like, we're obsessed with the opening night roster, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter at all.
Two nights
All
later, somebody's gonna get sent down, and they're gonna
yes,
call somebody up. So
the beginning season is about getting under the cap, getting cap compliant, getting guys through waivers, getting your opening night roster set, and then again, they do not plan things like fans. They are thinking 10 games, 20 games, 30 games, the whole season,
it's
the
intervals,
off
yeah.
season. This is why Vasili and I look at their finances and point out and how we knew before any other podcast was talking about it that next season would be a big off season. They have plans. So just because you see Andrae go down, again, his contract status definitely matters. He would have been taken in waivers.
and yeah, we'll see too. Like, because
Tyson Jost was just taken.
I just think all these defensemen have been underwhelming. So like nothing set in stone. If these guys continue to underwhelm and they're a disaster on the third pair at the NHL level, they're going to be like, okay, we got to try something else. Bring up the other guy because these guys aren't doing well. So we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see. Like I think the next guy I want to touch on is Yinning. I mean, he seems to have the inside track to probably be like that third pair sixth defenseman at this point. At least that's the way that I'm kind of looking at it. I think it's it's something I think you got to look out for him and say like he really kind of turned things around because I think a lot of people didn't have him penciled in at this point to be in the position he's in. I think most probably thought he was going to be on the outside looking in terms of the organization moving forward, probably an AHL guy strictly, but I think he's taking this Ristolainen injury and kind of use it to his advantage because the Flyers need size with Risto out. He has size at 6'4". He doesn't play a necessarily like flashy game or anything that's going to jump off the page, but he's just solid, steady, can lay a body check, can play on the penalty kill, can be good around the net where they're lacking that physicality. So I think he's done kind of everything they've asked for so far, and that's kind of why he's at where he's at.
I wrote him as one of my standouts early in preseason. I think he's had a very good preseason for what he brings.
Good, yeah.
I think he's looked better than Gilbert and Juulsen. I think there's a reason they picked him. Again, we'll go back to contract status. We brought it up here. He signed a 2-year deal. This is the one-way deal this year.
Yeah, they can't send him down. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not exempt. Not that I think he would have been taken necessarily through waivers, but he's making NHL money this year.
Yeah.
This is probably his last chance with the Flyers, and he had a good preseason. And
he's what, 25 as well, right? I believe so.
He is 25, yes. So he's right at that age. This is his chance. He had a good preseason. They need a big body. I think he threw excellent, not just threw big hits at excellent times.
Timed well, very well. I agree.
We've actually never seen him play poorly at the NHL level.
No, when they called him up in the past, like he played some games. I remember a couple of years ago against Florida, looked decent. Then he kind of fell off after that. But like he's never looked like out of place or like a disaster out there. He just never stepped up to the point where it was like consistent every game. I think that's what they're going to probably look for is the consistency. Like after this, how does he go like from game to game at the NHL level? Does he, continue to stay that like reliable option where there isn't too many breakdowns? So it'll be interesting. Like I think to your point, like you said, it's kind of his chance to run with it. This might be his last real opportunity to become like a third pair type of NHL defenseman. So we'll kind of see if he takes it and hits the ground running. But I'm interested for sure.
Yeah, me too. I like that he made the team, especially when you consider the other options are Gilbert and Juulsen.
I think too, you drafted this guy, you developed him, so like you have more of the, it's not like exactly,
to
more
see
of the
it through.
Incentive to kind of play him over.
You almost kind of owe it to him
agency
too. He's done everything they've asked him to do.
Hasn't left for Sweden, which he could have multiple times. So.
And he would probably be a pretty good defenseman in Sweden at this point. So this is his chance, and at the very least, he's going to be on the radar for the NHL. So very happy with Yinning. I like his simple game. I don't care that he doesn't move the puck amazing or any of that. I think that's
not his role anyways.
Yeah. The only mistake he was really part of was kind of he was kind of rushing the play, and Michkov didn't realize it, and then there was a break the other way. That was the only negative thing I've seen from Yinning, but I could blame that on Michkov as well. I think that was a combination error
Yeah, and
on both of their parts.
Just think about the other defensemen, all the negatives we've seen from them. So I think,
right. So let's talk about negatives. Let's talk about Noah Juulsen. Look, the reality is Tocchet, after Juulsen didn't play well. Yeah, he didn't play well. Tocchet pointed him out first as the player who did well. So he's got a relationship with the guy. He's seen him play. He did not have a good preseason. Look, he used to be a first-round pick. There might be more in there. From what I understand, Vancouver fans didn't like him either.
Not the greatest in terms of on-ice play. I think
he's the new thing. Yeah, he's a new whipping boy, let's be honest. Like, he threw some big hits. He also tried to hurt some people.
He might fight.
Which I don't mind the dirtiness. I mean, you kind of need that a little bit. I don't hate him, but
just think about a depth defenseman, like a seventh defenseman. Like, that's kind of what these guys are. He's never going to be the greatest. He might throw some hits. He might fight.
Yeah.
Like, I think, Ginning is clearly above him in terms of on ice play. I think the thing that might be, what's keeping him around is obviously the relationship with Tocchet, but just like the culture aspect, like, he might be a really good guy in the room. Players might like him, like, just being that kind of glue type of guy. Who knows? So
he might be. And he's right-handed. Let's be honest. Tocchet is mentioned multiple times.
The left-right is a big thing to Tocchet. So
and
we'll see.
They really are missing a guy without Risto.
And we'll get into it with the lineup combos in a minute here, but like, Tocchet even stated in one of his pressers the other day that, like, when it comes to like how the roster is going to shape up, like, he would prefer keeping 8 defensemen. That's something to know. That's what he stated.
Yes. So. Yeah. Good luck with that, Toc.
Him and Brie are going to have a little bit of a
he's going to lose that battle. I promise you that much. So let's talk about the goalies. Oh no, Dan Gilbert. Let's talk about him real quick. I think he's been better than Juulsen. I think he skates better. He makes less mistakes. Hasn't been amazing or anything. No. I think he beat out Juulsen, but Juulsen is, has the reputation with Tocchet. He's seen him play. I think he's the most likely to be sent down.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty accurate. There's not much for me to add.
And I called that in the offseason, by the way.
There's not much for me to add. Like, I think Gilbert is the better 7th defenseman of him or Juulsen. I think he's less mistake prone. I think he's less prone to try to, like, get in a position to make the big hit, where it seems like Juulsen kind of has the mindset to do that for some reason. But it's just the relationship. Like, that this is Tocchet's guy, so naturally he's going to get the spot over Gilbert. But we'll see. If there's injuries, I'm imagining he's like the shoe-in 7th, just because you could probably sit him down, and there's not going to be like development repercussions for sitting a young prospect.
And the likelihood of Gilbert getting taken through waivers, pretty unlikely. Yeah, same with Juulsen, right? It's like both of them are kind of fall into that same camp of safety, and quite frankly, the Phantoms need a veteran defenseman down there as well. So
especially with Belpedio gone,
yes, correct. So I think he's most likely to play that role as of right now. Let's talk about goalies, but I really want to talk about Dan Vladar. We don't really need. We already know about Samson or whatever, but we got to see. Thank you. I called him Samson. I wrote Samson here, but I meant Samuel Ersson.
You meant Ersson.
Yeah.
You combined
Thank
Sam.
you.
So you combined Sam and Ersson, and then
I was listening to the Bible, and it's a joke.
Appeared.
If people don't know that, Samson was a Jewish hero in the Torah. Anyway, okay. Dan Vladar played his first full game against Boston.
Looked good.
Yes, he did. I don't have too much to say. I think he looks steady. I think already gives me more confidence in the goaltending situation. There was a lot thrown at him. He seemed stable in net. Some wraparounds that I feel like Kolosov or Fedotov would have given up. He was there with his skate. His positioning is better. Looks like a pro. I did see like Dan Silver, on the sister podcast here, OMB podcast. He believes Dan Vladar could be better than Ersson. We'll see.
We'll see what happens.
But the most important thing is a competent guy to share the net with Ersson. And after that game, what I wrote online was I think he won some serious brownie points with Flyers fans for that one, because we've been waiting for another goalie outside of Ersson to have like a great
A
performance.
decent game, or just
Yeah,
look like
it
they're,
wasn't even
you
it
know.
wasn't even great. He had 15 shots on net. The Flyers outplayed Boston in that game. They did
Yeah, I
a
mean,
good
like
job
with
defensively.
15 shots as a goalie, you should have a solid game. Like it's not a heavy workload. I think the thing with Vladar is like it's easy to tell he's an NHL caliber backup, whereas with Fedotov and Kolosov at points, you weren't even sure if they were NHL caliber, right? And that it was evident. It was easy to see in their play, just like looking discombobulated on certain plays, right? Like not being in the right position. Like he is very positionally sound, first of all, as a goalie. Like he's 6'5", he's a big guy, but his movements are fluid, like in the sense that like when he goes into his butterfly, he's not like fucking flailing around. Like he's in the right places. He's tight with his butterfly. Like when he comes down, he tightens up the 7 hole and stuff. So like for a big guy, he's technique's pretty solid and he moves pretty quickly post to post as well. So I'm interested to see like what he does in the regular season with more playing time. Like I wouldn't say confidently like he's going to be better than Ersson or anything like that. I still think Ersson has the ability to potentially outplay him, and I think he has a higher upside than him. Obviously, just because he's younger at this point. I would say with Vladar though, like there is an opportunity to potentially supplant Ersson. Obviously, if he struggles, I think it's going to start off probably like a 50-50. I don't think anybody really has the starting role at this point, even though they might be leaning more towards Ursa just because they've developed him and he's younger and they know the upside could be there for potential starting a role. But I think it'll be 50-50 and it's really going to be who earns it, whoever plays better. So he has a
Who's the
really
hot goalie?
he
Yeah.
he has a huge opportunity because he could cement himself as the number one if he takes it and plays well and ultimately, grabs it. So this is really like it's probably like maybe one of his only last chances he'll ever have to actually become a starter potentially. So
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like your breakdown of his positioning and all that too. That's why we have you on here, Vasili, for the goalie knowledge.
yeah, all those years ago it paid
Yeah.
off.
All right, let's get into the second half of the show where we go through the lineup. Just want to remind everybody, please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell for notifications. Get notified when we release these episodes. And for the audio version, go to Spotify and iTunes and give us a rating and a follow as well. That is the best way to support the show. So if you've made it this far and you haven't done that yet, please do so now. We humbly appreciate it. All right, let me share my screen. All right, so I put together lines at the NHL level based off of what we were seeing at practice. And where preseason is currently right now. And then I also went through the minor league as well and try to set something up there also, so we can take a look at that afterwards. So the lines are as follows from practice. Top line, Owen Tippett on the left-hand side, Zegras in the middle, Michkov on the right. Interesting to note, oh, for those who are listening, this is on YouTube, a better experience. So maybe best to watch it on YouTube if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or just the audio version. Tocchet did note that he does see Tippett as like the veteran on that line and thinks that he's been pretty strong defensively at practice, but he did bring up how he is a little nervous about the combination of Zegras and Michkov, but it's undeniable that they have chemistry. So he's rolling with it, putting Tippett because you don't want to put another young guy like a Grebenkin on there. Let me read through the full lines, Vasili, and then we can go through everything. Sorry. Second line is Grebenkin, Couturier, Konecny. Third line, Forrester, Cates, Brink, as we know. And then in practice, they were rotating Luchanko and Delorier on the left-hand side on the fourth line, Dvorak in the middle, and Garnet Hathaway on the right side. And then Abols was the extra today. I think this lineup looks pretty good for an
Yeah, I like it.
opening night. I think we will see some variation though for the preseason because I don't know if like necessarily they're going to want to start Luchanko on the left hand side for a preseason game, though he might play with Dvorak and Hathaway.
Possible. Yeah.
But what are your thoughts? I mean, obviously the Grebenkin, Couturier, Konechny line is definitely notable.
Yeah, Grebenkin, Couturier, Konecny is really notable. I mean, Zegras, Michkov makes sense. They've been keeping the pair. I think the pairing thing's kind of staying true. Like you're seeing Michkov, Zegras as a pair, Couturier, Konecny as a solidified pair. I think we've seen Case and Brink together as well. They haven't been split up at all. So Tocchet's kind of keeping true to that. He's keeping the pairings and kind of just rotating like the three wingers around almost. Like Tippett will be interesting. I don't necessarily like Michkov and Tippett just because of last season, but I'm willing
Yeah,
to give
I
it a
had that
shot
thought.
just because I'm willing to give it a shot just because he's really talented and really good shooter. You pair him with, Michkov and Zegras, who should be able to get him the puck. Can he unleash that shot and really start off hot and kind of get on a roll? And then you never look back. Who knows? Maybe that's kind of their thinking here. I'm not in love with Tippett, but I'm interested to see like how it looks because on paper, those could be like some of your. I mean, Zegras and Michkov, two of your most skilled guys. Tippett too, insanely skilled. So like you got three skilled guys together. I just worry about maybe like do they stylistically fit and how's the defense going to be on that line? That's kind of one of my one concern.
Yeah.
Couturier, Konecny, Grebenkin, I really like that line. Like they've been together in multiple preseason games at this point at like different intervals and they've looked really good. And I think Grebenkin's kind of like your perfect go get the puck type of guy under the goal line. Like Tocchet called him a sticky guy today in the in the preseason, like sticky with the puck, just hard on pucks. Like I think he's a good complement to those two guys and kind of frees Couture and Konecny up to be a bit more offensive. And then Forster, Kate's Brink, I mean, we know the line works. So I think it's like if you're going to have one line that 100% works, and we saw in the last preseason game how good Kate's and Forster look together. So like, why wouldn't you keep it together just to start off to have one line you can go back to all the time if things are kind of getting a little bit discombobulated? You can put them out there, they can kind of settle things. And then the fourth line, I mean, I don't necessarily love it. I would probably just put Luchanko at center if I'm gonna have him on the fourth line, just so at least he's playing his natural
Yeah, and,
position.
and put Dvorak on the left-hand side and let
And then
him
switch out the faceoffs when you need
because
to.
well, I think you're gonna need to a lot because Luchanko was not winning faceoffs very much.
Yeah,
He was
and
getting dominated.
he's a young player, so that's going to be like a
It's
natural thing.
normal, yeah.
But one thing I would say, like if we're looking at the forwards, like a couple changes I would make is I wouldn't be opposed because I like Dvorak with Michkov and Zegras. I wouldn't be opposed to putting Dvorak up, like moving Luchanko over, and then I don't know what you do with Tippett at that point, but
That's
maybe
part
I'd
of
drop Tippett back and then put Grebenkin back to the fourth line if I was gonna
yeah.
do that.
I think look, I think we might see that. I think we might actually I was even thinking for a preseason game, like maybe they sit Gabrankin and put Luchanko with Couturier and Konechny just for a preseason
That'd
game.
be interesting too, yeah.
Yeah, just to give him some good line mates to see if he, does setups, get shots on net, maybe take some of
Yeah.
the defense off of him, see if he can get his offensive game
And
going.
you never know. Like we see Kate's there, but Kate's could also get moved back to the fourth line. They might put Luchanko on the third line to
I
play with Tippett or something. You never
I
know.
think look, I think
They've
it's
been playing a lot.
possible, but I think Noah Cates is viewed in this organization as like a cornerstone player.
Yeah, he cemented himself for sure. I'm just
So
saying, like, if you're gonna drop anybody down and like it's not gonna affect them too much, like you could play almost that fourth on like a defensive third type of line. So we'll
yeah,
see.
I look, I think you could they could try all kinds of things. I also think I get it. The Tyson Forrester Cates Brink line works. We know it works. But I do have a little bit of a problem when I see a guy like Tyson Forrester, who I personally believe is a top line player, at least in the making. And, I look at the fact that I want to see him with Zegras and Michkov.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could switch Tippett and Forster, and
Right.
that looks like a really interesting line. To be honest, if you look at all the three left wings, you could shuffle them around quite a bit and like
And which
have
we might
different looks
see.
on each line. And I think
Yeah.
that could be kind of what Tocchet's plan is, why he's keeping the pairs of Michkov, Zegras, Couturier, Konechny, Brink, and Cates, because he realizes you have three guys on left wing and he doesn't really know yet who fits where.
Right. Because he also
Let's
didn't
try
see
them.
Forrester a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's try them all out, see how they look. Let's say Tippett, Zegras, Michkov don't look good. Pocket recognizes that. He might be like, okay, let's try Forrester there. Now let's put Tippett with Cates and Brink and see how that looks. Oh, that doesn't look good. And Couturier and Grebenkin are looking good with Konechny. Like, let's switch now Tippett and Grebenkin, right? So I think the left wings, I think you could see maybe three different line combinations with all of these three wingers rotating at some point.
Yeah. And let
Totally
me
possible.
let me throw out a rando here.
Do
Um,
it, yeah.
What about even like going completely nuts with it and moving Noah Cates up, which I don't think they're going to do this. But, you think about Noah Cates with Sean Couturier on the line. We saw it a little bit last year.
Yeah.
It would be a very difficult line to beat defensively. Um, and, I think about like you can get Luchanko in the middle. You give him Owen Tippett, who's played with, and Bobby Brink, who could be a good line mate for him as well. I'm
To
just
be
talking about
honest,
for
too.
preseason.
To be honest, too. Like that fourth line of Dvorak, Grebenkin, Hathaway, like that isn't really a fourth line. Like that's more like a third line.
Right.
Like 3B, like
Remember,
a heavy big line that's like is gonna get you below the goal line, really check hard.
yeah.
So
Well, and
yeah,
remember, we were talking about it because, like, yeah, you want to, like, Dvorak does work with Zegras and Michkov, right? We brought this up like a while ago. But then I was, my thought always is like, I want four good lines. And if I
yeah,
have
you could.
Dvorak, who's our second best faceoff guy behind Sean Couturier, I want four good lines. And
Yeah.
this is, again, we're just playing around here, but this could potentially be four good lines, right? Or even with Gebrankin,
I think the
um,
good thing is you're not like with this, you could tell that this forward group is a lot deeper than it has been in years past. Like there's a lot of different combinations you could try that
yes,
realistically make sense. Where I think in the past couple of years, the roster's been limited after the top two lines. You're kind of just like, like who's really
well,
going to score?
to be
So
honest, Zegras has changed that
of
a
course,
lot.
him and Dvorak add a lot of depth. I
Yeah.
would say too, an interesting thing, like if you went back to your prior kind of setup where you had Cates on the second line, even putting Cates on the first line, I think, I mean, that could
Dude,
be interesting too.
instead of Dvorak, yeah.
Yeah, because it's kind of the same, like it's kind of the same thought process,
Yeah.
right? Like he's going to take care of the defensive responsibilities and kind of unleash Zegras and Michkov offensively. He's not the greatest guy on faceoffs, so that maybe is like the thing where like Dvorak could help Zegras on faceoffs. But in terms of like the defensive acumen, it's basically the same type of thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's
And
interesting.
look, and I think with
And
Luchanko's status,
yeah,
yeah.
Forster, Couturier, Konecny have worked in the past too. If you were to do that,
Yeah.
so
And they might like keep Luchanko out and not play him in the first game or something and then bring him into the lineup in the second game. We don't know.
yeah,
But I do think there's a very good, like I mentioned, I think he's going to lose that battle again because I think because of the contract stuff, it's like, look, we want to give you 8 defensemen, but we want to see what Luchanko's got. You know what I mean? And we don't necessarily want to drop Abols because he's outperformed other guys. He's earned
yeah,
it. So, and they're not going to drop the Laurier, even though he's the most likely. And by the way, I was playing NHL 26, and I'm playing the Be a Pro mode, the new one, and Delorier is my top line left winger. Guy had 5 goals in a
that's
game.
awesome. Well,
He
there you
was
go.
a
Very realistic.
monster, a monster. I'm like, this is the best game of
At
his
least
life.
we know the NHL series. The realism is there. That's for
Right? Yeah,
sure.
yeah, 100%. But
So what do you
Delor,
think? Like,
yeah,
what do you think in terms of the lineup? Like with the forwards, with the D. Like, I'm looking at it and like I think the forward group is going to stay this way. Like, I can't really in my mind like look at how Abols has performed. I don't think Luchanko should go back to Guelph. Like, I
not
think
yet
they
at
should keep.
least.
Yeah, I think they should keep the 14 forwards. That's my opinion. And Gilbert's kind of your odd man out. That's the way I would look at it.
I think the question really comes up with the forward group of what happens if Luchanko gets better and better. Then things really change. If he doesn't, you can always call up Gilbert,
Yeah.
call up a defenseman, and bring him back with the group. Especially until Risto comes back, because he's going to be out at least a month into the season, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We know that, so he's going to be out a substantial amount of time anyway. So I think it really depends on how Luchanko looks. And that's why I think they're going to play him in these final 2 preseason games. They're going to be like,
For sure.
push him. They're going
They're
to
going to
want,
want to gauge it to make sure that
yes.
he's ready for this level if he's going to be here all year. So that's what
Because,
you have to do.
yeah, because if he's not, it's not the end of the world if
He's
he
only
goes back to
19. Yeah.
OHL. But you want, exactly, fresh 19. I think a lot of people forget that. Like, he just turned 19 at the end of August. So, like, he is a kid, So you really want, I mean, he's an adult, but, in hockey terms, he's a kid.
Yeah.
So you really want to see if he comes out of his shell. If he doesn't, it makes it a lot easier to kind of figure out what your lines are. But I like this group. This is not a weakness for the Flyers right now. This group, in my opinion, if you add a legitimate top pairing defenseman, which is extremely hard to find, as hard as a number one center, almost as hard or about as hard to find. If you add like a top pairing defensemen, I think this is a playoff team on paper.
Yeah, I would agree.
And that depends how the goaltending is, obviously, as well.
But if they're just decent, like league average, I would say, like with the talent
Yeah.
the forwards have, and then you added that extra talent, the defenseman, like, yeah, they would be on the bubble.
I think the
So
forward group's going to be competitive,
I agree. I think the
especially the
defense,
power
like,
plays.
to be honest, like the way we went through the forward lines, there's not much we can do with the defense. Like,
The defense
I,
kind of is what it is, bro.
yeah, until
Risto. Yeah.
Ristolainen comes back, like, and you're not gonna have Andrae in here. This is kind of what it's gonna be like. You're not gonna want to have Gilbert or Juulsen in
I
over Zamula or Ginning, and you're not gonna want to have Ginning or Zamula up in the lineup over any of these other four defensemen ahead of them. So this is
probably
basically what it's gonna be. The
did-
only thing you could change, I would say, is like maybe if you wanted to put like Sealer with Sanheim, Drysdale and York. But I just
was
don't
actually
think they're gonna
thinking
do
even I don't think so either, but I was even thinking like maybe they could try this
that
if
too. Yeah.
if Drysdale excels. But I think they're really going to use Sanheim and York as you
As
know
the
the
anchors,
cornerstone,
yeah.
the cornerstone of the D. And we'll see how the other guys go. Again, it might be a rotating kind of thing with Juulsen and Zamula and Yinning for a little
We'll
bit
see.
until
That bottom pair might be a shelter type of thing where, like, if they're, I don't know, it's going to be interesting. It might be one of those cases where, like, they're trying to get that bottom pair 13 to 15 minutes a night, and like top four take the rest of it away because we don't trust these guys on the third pair that much.
I don't think that'll be immediate, but that could happen later in the season. But by then, Risto might be back by then too. So, which changes a lot. And I talked about how like I see the top four playing out as Sanheim, Drysdale, York, Risto. I think would be
that'd be great. Yeah,
yeah, and I think that changes the dynamic of this team quite a bit. Having said that, Risto missed a lot of time, and he's going to need to get up to speed and all that. So it just shows really the need that the Flyers have for a top defenseman. And we didn't.
That'll probably be
Bonk,
something they'll
right?
try to address. I mean, I'm thinking this offseason with everything coming up.
That is the big goal. I agree. So let's take a look at the so yeah, we agree that we think Gilbert's going to be the one that's sent down. I think Tocchet's going to lose that battle just because there's an organizational decision with Luchanko. And I think the call will be made to send Dan Gilbert down, at least temporarily, until they figure it out. Maybe not. Maybe Luchanko doesn't excel, and they're just like, let's just pull the cord. Let's give him a full season in the OHL. Again, he's young for his age group. It's not. I don't think it's gonna hurt.
He'll get traded if he goes back down to a contender, probably. So.
They would be stupid not to trade him. They are a rebuilding organization down there. They'll get a haul for this kid. That league already lost a ton of talent. He's going to easily be one of the best players in that league. But I want to see him stick. I think they need to give him the longest look that they can, and be certain that he is not ready because of the time missed and everything like that. So as far as the D, so this also just want to point out, and let's say we remove Gilbert, gives them about just under $2 million worth of cap space. So not too bad. It shows that Fedotov trade was necessary, because that would have been pretty much his entire salary, even with him in the minors. As far as I have Jack Nesbitt in here because I created him, but as far as the lines, this is kind of my guess. I can tell you right now, I'm gonna be wrong, but my guess is Bump, Gaucher, Richard, Barkey, Peterson, who's injured right now, Tuamala.
They sent him back down actually, so he might not be that injured anymore.
Good. Alexis Gendron, Carson Dorwart, who also I think is injured still. Devin Kaplan, and then fourth line, and Wilson usually ends up playing a higher position because he is captain of the team. So I don't know exactly how these lines are going to play out. On the fourth line with either Tucker Robertson in the middle or Massimo Rizzo, and I assume Zayd Wisdom will be in the lineup again. He was very good for the Phantoms last year. So
I imagine Bolton will be like your extra golder, like
but we still have
Eklund,
Eklund, right? And Rizzo. And
that's what happens typically in the AHL. Like there's always a rotating cast. Like it's never the same lineup every night typically. So
and again, if Dorwart's injured, you can just slide up Rizzo. I assume Robertson's going to be playing center. I don't.
One thing that I'm interested about is like I feel like Tuamala's stock's kind of dropping with the organization. So like, do we see Gendron kind of take his top six role until he kind of like cements himself or
maybe
kind of prove something more, right? So
that might be the only thing I see there is like. Yeah, I guess that's possible. Definitely. And I was like, does Kaplan play fourth line? I was like, they weren't using him that way in preseason. So, they were using him as a third line player in
I think
preseason.
third line. I think Kaplan probably has the jump on a guy like Wisdom, just considering the fact that Kaplan, just in terms of like the development, they're probably expecting more for him to develop going forward than Wisdom at this point, right? Like the one guy's a later draft pick than the other, and then one guy also is like on an AHL only contract now at this point as well.
Yeah.
So we will see.
So, yeah. And then the defense, I assume Andrae will play with Grands like he
That's
has
kind
in
of
the
been his
past.
mainstay in
Yeah.
terms of the partners
Now,
there. Yeah.
and they're missing two defensemen down there right now due to injuries. That Bonk and Samson. So that's where the need for a guy like Gilbert probably increases. They do have McDonald down there, Ty Murchison. Again, Grands didn't play well in preseason. He still has a chance to get
It was
called
kind
up
of,
though.
yeah, he's still young. Definitely, like I think if he would have excelled, I think he probably would have stole a spot just due to his size, the fact he's right-handed, but it is what it is. He's still only 23, still young for a defenseman, so we'll kind of see how he progresses and if maybe he gets a call up. But I think with the injuries, this is pretty much what it's going to look like. Obviously, minus Bonk and Samson.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a bummer for Samson. He'll be out for a good amount of time. Bonk will be back shortly, assuming
Yeah.
there's
He's
no
probably going to play
diagnosis.
like all situations for them for sure.
Yeah,
So
I wouldn't be shocked if they put Bonk with Andrae, to be honest with
yeah,
you.
that'd
Thinking
be
about that
interesting.
also. But we'll see. We'll see how they put it. It's a shame we didn't get to see him at all in preseason. He's going to be need to brought up to speed. All right, let's do our final segment. We'll do the prospect updates next week. We had so much to talk about this week that we're running pretty long here right now. So let's just end on the Kaprizov news. So Kirill Kaprizov, who was, I guess, one of the top three uh, potential free agents for this upcoming offseason. He did reject a $16 million a year deal with Minnesota, I think a week or two ago.
Yeah,
But
something like that.
yeah, but now has accepted and signed a deal with Minnesota that gives him an 8-year deal at 17 million per
Maybe
136 million.
17 is his favorite number or something. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be my favorite number. It means he got the largest deal of any hockey player. I saw Andrew Raycroft, the former goaltender, online being like, when I was in the NHL, the overall team salary cap was $43 million. And he was like, that would have been nearly half the cap. So obviously a lot of money left on the table for those guys. But, Kaprizov earns a massive contract. I do think it has implications, more of insight of where we're probably seeing the top contracts. When you think about Minnesota, look, he doesn't play a number one center role, but I was listening to SDBN podcast. That team without him, they were like number 5 in the league overall. Then when he got injured, their like win percentage would have if they would have just had that without him, they were like 21st in the league.
Yeah, they wouldn't have made the playoffs if he
Yeah,
wasn't on the team, essentially.
he is an incredible talent. We talk about this all the time. The UFAs that are available, expect that 80% of them will never make it to free agency. So all of you thinking that, and again, when the Flyers planned on 2026, they didn't go, oh, all of these UFAs will be available and we'll be able to capture anybody. It's going to be the start of finding players, which could be through any avenue, not just free agency. It's the fact that you have the cap room. You have the ability now to go out and do this. So I don't think they anticipated Kaprizov being out there or McDavid or Eichel. But if they were, they would have gone for them. But I think they knew that it's pretty unlikely that any team is going to let a guy of this caliber go. When I saw him turn down $60 million a year, I did think, oh, maybe he just doesn't want to play Minnesota in general.
That's why I said maybe 17 is his favorite number or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But his agent's doing some good negotiation. I mean, obviously the most lucrative deal in NHL history. I'm sure McDavid will eventually pass that once he signs a contract at some point here as the most lucrative deal, but still pretty cool for Kaprizov to say, hey, I was the most highly paid player ever in NHL history.
Yeah. I think with McDavid, it's going to be a little different because I'm not.
Could depend on the term, but
right.
I think now he's just going to be like I'll give you an example, right? So Kaprizov signed this deal. Kaprizov got last year 56 points in 41 games. So like well over a point a game. If we would have played the full season, he would have got like 110 points. If McDavid hits like 160, 170 points this year, which is completely possible because the contract year is McDavid, he's just gonna say, hey, look at the point totals. What's Kaprizov getting paid? Oh, you scored 110 points. Yeah, I scored 50 more than him. So
but he didn't do that last time.
No, I know. He might not. He's a team first guy, but I'm just saying if he wanted to,
if we wanted to, he could get 20 million a year for sure.
Yeah,
which is I think what we guesstimated in the offseason.
I just look at Kaprizov, man, like 51 points in 55 games his first season, 108 points in 81 games, then 75 points in 67, 96 and 75, 56 and 41 last year. Overall, 319 games played, 386 points. In the playoffs, 21 points in 25 games played. Like, the points just speak for themselves with him.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, look, he's a superstar. He's one of the best players in the world. We believe we have another one of him in Matvei Michkov, who I think could be better than Kaprizov, God willing.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. It does show that the salaries are going up. I mean, the cap's going way up, and it's going to go up for the next few years, and it's good for these athletes. I think McDavid's going to take a shorter term deal. I think he's going to probably do a 3-year deal at 17 million, something similar. And then his next deal will probably still be like 20 million a year, 25 million a year.
We'll see what happens. I think the only way he signs more than 3 years is if like Edmonton wins the cup this season or something. Then I think he signs like a full long.
We'll see if. I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do, but I do anticipate that he will re-sign. I anticipate Jack Eichel will re-sign in Vegas too. Which, by the way, they are the leads right now for Vegas getting Carter Hart as well.
Yeah. I would say, for McDavid, I expect him to re-sign in Edmonton. The only way I think they don't is if they make the playoffs and like are eliminated in like the first round or like very early.
Yeah,
he'll probably consider something else.
It could happen. I think people are overreacting to the implications of this has to the Flyers specifically.
I don't know.
I don't think they were going to go. Look, I think if Kaprizov was out there, you got to take a crack at him.
But so are the other 32 teams in the league, right? So we'll see.
Yeah. But I don't think, I actually think the Flyers' top need is not number one center. It's
defenseman.
Top defenseman. Because they also don't have a slew of top prospects down there either. They really just have Bonk.
Yeah.
So that is their biggest need, and I think that's also the best need to fill with a veteran. That's the best because it's a stabilizing role, defensive role. So I think that will be the Flyers' number one shopping.
I think, like we said, like this offseason, that'll be a big focus for them. Also, too, like it'll depend on obviously like how Zegras plays at center, but I think so far so good. He's kind of
so far so good.
Well, he's looking good early on, so we'll see if it continues.
Yeah. All right, let's cut it, my friend. We reached almost 2 hours, at least on the recording. I'm sure we've done something close to it. Anything you want to leave our audience with?
No, just everybody check out flyersnitty-gritty.com. More content obviously going to be on the website as the season ramps up and as we get, puck drop underway. I think as everybody listens to it, 7 days till puck drop for the regular season. So it's exciting.
Is it 7?
Yeah, because the day was 8 days away. So tomorrow will be 7.
Oh, yeah. Sneaking up. Hockey season's here. I love it. Okay. Again, just want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Jim Steaks at 4th and South. Make sure to go get yourself a cheesesteak from Jim's. They have one of the best, if not the best, cheesesteak in Philadelphia. Shout out to Public Summit Adjusters, 215-752-0560. Go to them for your insurance adjustment needs. They will help facilitate the process between you and your insurance company and make sure you get the best claim possible. Again, Public Summit Adjusters, 215-752-0560. Shout out to SportsSpider.com. They aggregate sports content from all over the internet and organize them by your favorite teams. Our stuff is pinned at the top because we have a partnership with them. Make sure to check them out. The link to them is in the description of both the video and audio versions of this podcast. And if you made it this far, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notification, get notified when we release these episodes. And for the audio version, go to Spotify and iTunes and give us a rating and a follow as well if you can. That is the best way to support the show. Vasili and I both humbly appreciate it. And also make sure to check out flyersnitty-gritty.com for all of our articles and additional content. We humbly appreciate it. All right. Thank you, everybody. We're excited. I'm sure you're about to be watching Flyers hockey any hour now that you're listening to this. We love you guys. And remember, always stay